When I was a kid, I know that whenever I saw someone in a movie or a show or a game who was really cool, I wanted to make part of them part of my personality. Example, I was 15 when Iron Man came out, and Tony Stark was just awesome. So I needed to have his weird little phone he pulls out when the cowboy gets attacked at the start of the movie. It's got the weird flip that looks hilariously outdated now, because it is. Uh, Granted, I had an iPhone at the time that could run circles around that thing, but I still wanted the stupid little plastic because Tony Stark held it. Um, Now, I may have grown out of wanting that little phone, but I don't think I ever grew out of taking on people who I admire as part of my personality. Granted, I like to think I'm a little bit more productive with my theft nowadays. All that said, I want to talk about 3 games that have undeniably made me a better therapist. All because there are parts of their stories that I can pull from and use in my work with clients. So, let's take a look at those 3, shall we? All right, major spoilers ahead for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Here we go. The entire events of the game are set in motion by a death of real Verso. Now, when a family member dies, there is naturally some degree of grief spread throughout the survivors. Obviously. For a lot of people, this looks like what many researchers call normal grief, or grief that is within the expected range of the tragedy, and that decreases gradually, though not necessarily continuously, over time. Normal grief can hit like a truck, especially for people who are close to the person who died. Normal grief doesn't have to mean that it's small. It just needs to be expected. Okay? A key feature of normal grief is that it hurts. It can even disabilitate, but it behaves just as any other type of pain. The further removed from the source, the less it becomes. Now, neurotic grief, it's the other type, is the opposite of that. Dr. Charles Wall, he wrote about this like over 50 years ago now, about the features of neurotic grief, which included disproportionality, irrational despair or hopelessness, loss of personal identity, thanatophobia or fear of non-existence or death, and not in the, again, normal sense, in the neurotic sense. Intolerance of ambiguity, irrational self-blame, loss of self-care, and loss of future planning. The interesting part, I guess it's all interesting to me, but proof of apathy or healing by those around them, those around the person who's experiencing the neurotic grieving, it would trigger an intensification in all of these responses. So it's almost like neurotic grief doesn't like the idea of somebody else getting better. If you've played the game, you can probably see where this is going. I'm going to stretch my French pronunciation here and say that the Descendre family is all undergoing this neurotic grief. Except Clair, she has her own problems that are beyond the scope of this, but Clair is weird. Aline is lost and hopeless, terrified of the idea of seeing death anymore. I mean, she created a whole world just so that she wouldn't have to face the reality of her son's death. It's also why she made all the painted members of her family immortal. She needs that safety, that freedom from death. That's her way of coping. And that is one of those features of neurotic guilt. It's also why what Renoir is doing with the gommage hurts her so deeply. Speaking of Renoir, he's not immune to this neurotic grief. Remember, intolerance of ambiguity is a defining character trait of the real Renoir. In fact, it's so damn strong that Aline made it the defining feature of painted Renoir too. The grief of losing Verso has only intensified that. He doesn't handle opposing viewpoints very well. That's underselling it. The only time he seems to show any kind of empathy towards the grieving process of others is literally in the last moment when he's been fully defeated. when he has no other choice. I think that bit shows more an insight into the real nature of Renoir, the Renoir who existed before Verso's death. But we get only that little less than a minute sliver compared to the rest of the evidence that he doesn't tolerate ambiguity anymore. Which leaves my L. The entire damn game is based on Alicia's own loss of identity as she enters the campus, when she's immediately overwhelmed by Elaine's chroma. To my mind, the first thing that to ever happen to Alicia in the canvas is a direct representation of her grieving process. Mm-hmm. Consider the ending of the game as well, where it's clear that Maëlle is still dealing with her grief. She's willing to give up her own well-being, her own future, as a result of grief, to live in the canvas forever. She does not have any interest in planning for, what I call it, the real future. She cares only for the canvas world. That's her grief. So, why did this game make me a better therapist? Well, because as I played through this game for the first time, I'll be honest, I yo-yoed back and forth between which character I felt I was allied with. Sometimes Maëlle had the right idea, then Painted Verso had some good points, then Aline had some good ideas, and I even ended with Renoir being, oh, he might have the right thing to say. I was constantly reevaluating, like, who had it right. Now, for a therapist, that's not the way to go about things. No. We have to have empathy for our clients. That's not an option, especially with their behavior in response to trauma. Not every choice made in those moments has a conscious, logical justification, but that doesn't mean that they are purposeless. Every member of the Descendre family, even Clair, develop their own complex responses to their neurotic grief. A good therapist, which I like to think I am one, can appreciate the fact that no matter whose side you agree with, that the Descendres developed their own ways to protect themselves. And that alone is worth praise. The goal of a therapist is to move from the self-protecting emergency responses to grief into more sustained, I don't want to say healthy, but healthy styles of healing. Okay, when I think back to my time playing Shadow of the Colossus, it's really not the bosses that I remember, weirdly enough. Don't get me wrong, some of the colossi are the most well-executed puzzles ever put to pixels. But for me, what I really remember about the game, even now as I'm recording this, is the silence. See, I know some folks aren't huge fans of the game because, well, if you evaluate it as like pure action combat, it's just not good. You don't get to weave and parry the colossi like in Elden Ring. You don't get the slick, complex attacks of God of War, and you don't get the endless stream of enemies like in Cuphead. You've got 16 fights, and that is it. See, I remember racing across empty fields and valleys beneath a bone-gray sky. I remember the rhythmic percussion of horse hooves on untrodden dirt. I remember damn near every breath and grunt our character makes as we traverse a lost world. And I remember the silence. Silence is a powerful tool we as therapists get to use during sessions, but it's one that is tough to get right. Why? Pretty obvious. Silence makes people uncomfortable. That's just a given in Western culture, the culture I'm in. Something that we've honed over centuries. Culture is big. It creates an unconscious bias for us to want to fill it. It also requires us to be alone with our thoughts, with whatever primordial emotions bubble from our own mental ooze. I know I've never been quite as meditative about my own self as when I played Shadow of the Colossus, largely because so much of it is spent in that relative silence. And yet, the game still sticks so clearly in my mind. It reminds me that silence allows a chance for things to settle, for discomfort to be normalized, for the hidden to reveal itself. And of course, we as therapists want all that from our clients. Despite the awkwardness of being silent, I think back to the brilliant devs of Shadow of the Colossus to remind me that they could make one of the greatest games of all time around that very simple concept. To me, the greatest game ever made is Disco Elysium, and I really hope and think I'm not alone in that. When it comes to therapy, this game's got it all. There is a detailed, psychologically rich exploration of addiction, especially the sensation of inner conflict that withdrawal, relapse, and identity can create. I've never seen a better example of a game offering internal insight into the struggles and eventually triumphs of addiction. We even have a whole part of our personality, multiple parts, dedicated to just these thoughts. There's also a wonderfully intricate dance between politics and self-conceptualization. As a gender-affirming therapist, I can't ever extricate my practice from politics. Frankly, I enjoy that. But the reality is, when you're working with trans folks in a country that really doesn't like us, politics becomes part of therapy. I can't separate them. And Disco Elysium gives wonderful examples of how the political identities your character adopts affect not just the external relationships, but also how internal thoughts and emotions are shaped by them. Just like I know for damn sure my internal thoughts around my own well-being, safety, identity are shaped by the politics of the United States. For better and for worse. Right now, for worse. Also, you can find damn near every therapeutic framework explored at some point in the game. As an existential therapist who focuses on addressing the givens in life and how we face them, like givens that we're going to suffer heartbreak, givens that we're going to die, givens that we're going to anything, right? It's just a natural part of the human experience. So the quests that involve the pale in Disco Elysium, they scratch that itch wonderfully. It's exactly what I try to focus on with clients, is understanding ourselves and how we respond to things that are inevitable. Cognitive behavioral therapists, which is kind of the most popular nowadays, I think, they'll enjoy observing our characters' mental processes play out in real time, including clear indications, like when it says failure and success on the passive checks, of faulty reasoning, which is the heart of CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapists identify this faulty reasoning, thoughts that lead a client astray, and address them and correct them. We can do that literally in the game by using skill points. Is it one for one in the real world? Of course not. But I think that's kind of beautiful in the way that it so simply illustrates the goal of CBT. So there's also Rogerian or person-centered therapy. It's present with our character's self-conceptualization. So we as the character are constantly, and I mean from the moment we wake up to the moment the game ends, constantly torn between discovering or believing in our potential and giving into the despair of the mistakes of our past. A person-centered therapist understands that need for positive regard, especially in the idea of a therapist, unconditional positive regard. It's even more important, especially when our clients can't find that positive regard themselves. Hell, even Freudians, which I don't really count myself as one, have their time in Disco Elysium. With their entire goal, the goal of Freudian therapy, centered around uniting a client's conscious and unconscious mind, The game could be looked at as an exercise in getting the various internal dialogues of our character to come to a more cohesive external being. That's the goal. We can really see this towards the end of the game, where even the most basal parts of our character, the limbic system and the ancient reptilian brain, they sing in unison with the rest of our mind. That would make old Freud pretty damn happy. Now, as for how the game actually makes me a better therapist, I just see it as a workout for my own empathy. See, being able to put yourself in the shoes of another, to feel what they feel without losing yourself in that whirlwind, that doesn't come naturally. Some people are good at it, but it's not something that just is gifted to you. It's a muscle, and it needs honing, stretching, building. And frankly, to me, if you want to get a decent idea of what the curriculum of a master's program in therapy and counseling feels like, dive into Disco Elysium face first and go along with every ounce of the roleplay. It's a hell of a place to start. So, those are my 3 games that I think make me a better therapist, not just when I first started doing therapy, but still today and continuously. What games have left a profound impact on your own self or your own professional identity? Let me know. Bye.